Hello guys. Welcome to our channel. This is a tutorial series for RPA development using UiPath. In our first tutorial, we saw how to use UiPath Community Edition and what features it provides. We also explored UI Explorer. In this tutorial, we will create a simple working automation. We will create a basic web automation. Let's begin. Let's launch UiPath Studio. Click Continue Free. In our last tutorial, we had created a blank project, Web Automation. We will use the same project here. We will automate a web form where we will input some details and submit the form. There are two ways to start an automation. Either we can pull required activities from Activities pane into Workflow, or we can use Recorder. We will start with Recorder, and we'll see the another method in later part of tutorial. Select Web Recorder from menu. To start with web automation, we need to open a web application inside browser. Let's open a web page. After launching web page, click Open Browser and Recorder and indicate Web Page and Browser. It will capture URL. Click OK. There are multiple input fields in web page, which we will automate one by one. To fill details into input field, click on Type and Recorder and indicate UI element on web page. Type the input value and click Enter. Repeat the same steps for other input fields. Country field in web form is a list type. To select an item from a list, Select Item can be used. Select the item and click OK. If checkbox Empty field is checked, automation will remove existing value from field before writing new value. Checkbox UI element can be automated using Check Activity. We will select Click Activity to automate Submit button. Click on Save and Exit to save recorded steps. Press Escape to discard recording. Recorder will generate a sequence of recorded steps. The very first step we had recorded was to open the web page. Recorder has translated it into an open browser activity with URL as an argument. The browser type is also recognized as Internet Explorer. The next steps were writing details into input fields, which are translated into separate type into activities with values we had entered. Each recording step is translated into an individual activity. Let's close browser and run automation. It works. Let's see how it does that. The Open Browser activity opens given URL in Internet Explorer. Then each field is identified as a UI element. Let's expand the target property of type into activity and open Selector. Selector is a combination of various IDs and attributes of a UI element which uniquely refers to that UI element. When we indicate an element in UI Explorer, it shows the child-parent tree of that element. Once an element is recognized, given input value will be written. To make input values dynamic, we can use variables, or better to use arguments to make it reusable. We will declare input arguments of type system.string. It is best practice to use camel case with argument direction as prefix to name arguments. Let's give default values to these arguments and replace hard-coded values with arguments and activities. Save and execute. It works, however we had left first name empty, which is a mandatory field, so web page has thrown an error message box. To automate the message box, we will drag and drop click activity from activities pane instead of using recorder. Click on Indicate on screen and indicate OK button on message box. You can see that generated selectors for this click action has application as topmost parent, whereas in case of type into, we saw it had only ID attribute. The reason is, type into was inside an open browser activity which is a container, and thus topmost parent is not required. This is called partial selectors. In case of click activity, it is outside of any container, and thus to identify the UI element, it requires topmost selectors as well. This is called full selectors. Close the browser and execute. Yes, it has clicked on message box. The appearance of error message depends on input data. In later tutorials, we will see how to automate this kind of exceptional dialogues. UiPath gives default names to activities based on their selectors or attributes, but these are not always readable. It is a best practice to rename activities with meaningful names. This will make code cleaner and readable. It will also help in identifying faulted activities in case of exceptions. Timeout MS property allows to specify timeout in milliseconds. Automation waits for a UI element to exist in scope for specified amount of time. If a UI element does not appear in specified time or operation is not completed in specified time, an error will be thrown. Another property wait for ready specifies how automation will wait for an element before performing operation. Marking none will make automation to perform operation immediately. In interactive mode, automation will wait for only specific element to load. And complete mode will make automation to wait until the application or page is loaded. We have covered web automation in this tutorial. The link used in this tutorial is available in description. Thank you. Bye-bye.